I've achieved a major milestone. I hit the 66-day mark of my habit to exercise daily. So what comes to mind when I think about the past 66 days?
Motherfucker, I've been mortified, 45, feeling like a Mordecai. I ain't regular, feel like Jordan wearing 45.
Well, when I think about the past 66 days, I think about how the hell did I even achieve completing 66 days in a row of something. And I think the reason I was able to achieve 66 days of daily exercise is because it's something that I've learned to really love and enjoy. When I think about who I was 66 days ago, I think I was a person that had the right mindset and had a lot of optimism and drive to get this thing going. First 20 days or so, I was somebody that was adhering to the routine but struggling. It wasn't entirely easy to go to the gym every day. In fact, the majority of these 66 days is being at the gym. There's only a few of them where I was actually at home doing yoga or running outside, saying it's okay not to go to the gym because I'm doing something else. It's okay to prioritize this because I'm doing something else. I really had to change my mindset and say, if you want this to stick, you gotta keep at it and just be happy with whatever you achieve when you're there. I mean, for the first couple of weeks, there are times where I've gone and my workouts were not very good. I didn't do much, but it was a win for me just to be there and check off that box and say, hey, this counts. Thinking about who I am now, I feel like I'm someone who is completely different. Like mentally and emotionally, I feel like my headspace is in a much better place. What's been super cool about this habit journey is that I think I'm benefiting from a lot more than I anticipated. Originally, when I decided to pursue this exercise goal, my outcomes were to improve my health and fitness. I wanted to run faster, I wanted to lift more, I wanted to be more mobile. But what I didn't really see coming, and honestly I should have seen this coming because there's a lot of well-published studies and information on this, it's all of the emotional benefits and just improving my mood and my well-being on a daily basis. Those are the residual things that I got from working on this habit. I had a lot of my success from focusing on environment and scheduling and habit stacking, but a key part of it was selecting an exercise program that I was really interested in, and that's an exercise program by Dr. Andrew Huberman. Dr. Andrew Huberman is a distinguished neuroscientist and professor at Stanford, known for his popular Huberman Lab podcast. Through his podcast, he translates complex scientific concepts into actionable tools for everyday life. I started listening to his podcast because I became very interested in the idea of cold showers. Eventually, this led me to discover his Foundational Fitness Protocol, which has been a game changer in my fitness journey. The Foundational Fitness Protocol targets all aspects of fitness: strength, hypertrophy, endurance, and cardiovascular training. The protocol is for anyone who wants to build a consistent fitness regimen in their weekly routine. The routine is spanned over a course of 7 days, with specific days dedicated to each aspect of fitness, including recovery. Huberman starts his program on Sundays, but the specific days of the week are irrelevant, so it doesn't really matter when you choose to start your program. Just pick the best day of the week that fits your schedule. Day 1 of the protocol is long endurance day. This long endurance session involves getting more than 30 minutes of Zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio means working at a pace where you are breathing faster than normal, but just able to maintain a conversation. 30 minutes is the baseline, but ideally you get in 60 to 75 minutes. Any form of cardio is fine. I chose a treadmill because it's the middle of winter and running outside is limited, but you can choose other things like swimming, hiking if that's in season for you. Day 2 of the protocol is the first resistance training day, and Huberman starts with the biggest muscle group, legs. After a 10-minute warm-up, the protocol suggests 50 to 60 minutes of training that target your quads, hamstrings, and calves. For legs and the other muscles that are exercised over the 3 resistance training days, the protocol offers 2 schedules that you can switch between monthly. Schedule A calls for lower reps and heavier weights, which focuses on building strength. The volume of work per exercise is anywhere between 4 to 8 reps for 3 to 4 sets, with 2 to 4 minutes of rest between sets. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Schedule B calls for higher reps and moderate lighter weights. This focuses on hypertrophy, which is increasing the size of your muscles. The volume of work per exercise is anywhere between 2 to 3 sets, with about 90 seconds of rest between sets. Huberman selects 2 exercises per muscle group in each workout, exercising them in both the shortened and lengthened positions. Day 3 is my favorite part of the protocol, which is recovery, and recovery is done through alternating deliberate heat and cold exposure. Deliberate heat exposure, often practiced through sauna use, can accelerate the body's recovery process by promoting muscle relaxation and enhancing blood circulation. Deliberate cold exposure can significantly reduce inflammation and muscle soreness, invigorating the body's natural recovery mechanisms. The protocol suggests 20 minutes in the sauna and then 5 minutes in an ice bath or cold shower, repeating the cycle 3 to 5 times. And if you're wondering how cold your ice bath or shower should be, Huberman says it should be cold enough that you want to get out, but safe enough that you can stay in. Day 4 of the protocol is the second resistance training. Beginning with a 10-minute warm-up again, this day involves 50 to 60 minutes of training the torso and neck. Torso muscle groups include your chest, shoulders, and back. For neck training, Huberman suggests exercises like lateral and head raises to mitigate injury risk and improve posture. Day 5 of the protocol is another cardio day. This session aims for 35 minutes of moderate intensity cardio, which is the equivalent to 75 to 80% of your maximum effort. Working at this pace is called Zone 3 or Zone 4 cardio. If you're using something fancy like this Polar H10 heart rate sensor, this would be the green or yellow zones. Day 6 is another cardio day, but this time it uses high intensity interval training. Huberman stresses the importance of picking an exercise that you can do with perfect form to prevent injury and doing it at an all-out sprint to get your max heart rate. For 8 to 12 rounds, complete 20 seconds of an all-out sprint, resting 10 seconds in between each round. Huberman mentions that he doesn't use a heart rate monitor during his high-intensity training days, but instead, he tries to get to a point where he quote-unquote feels like I want to die, no I don't want to die. And day 7 wraps up the protocol with a final resistance training day. Beginning again with a 10-minute warm-up, this day involves 50 to 60 minutes of training the biceps, triceps, and calves, with the neck being optional. Huberman's Foundational Fitness Protocol is for anyone who wants to build a consistent fitness regimen in their weekly routine. And this was perfect for me because my habit was to exercise daily. I thought this program was simple enough that I could adhere to it, build consistency, and it was also something new and fresh, different from anything that I've ever really tried before. I hit my 66-day mark of my daily exercise habit. I was really happy with my adherence and my ability to stick to the protocol. And thanks to Huberman's plan, I had built a really solid foundation, but I was ready for a new challenge. The exercises in his protocol weren't ones that I typically select for myself. And this is perfectly okay, because Huberman stresses that the protocol is supposed to be a rough guide, not a strict regimen. He stresses the importance of adjusting the exercises based on personal preference and goals. I really did enjoy the 7-day structure of Huberman's fitness protocol, so rather than change to something completely different, I wanted to build on top of it. My updates to the protocol targeted the resistance training days, so I decided to take it back to my roots, to what I was most familiar with. Many years ago, I graduated from university with a degree in kinesiology, and after I graduated, I interned and I worked as a strength and conditioning coach, and I worked at a facility that trained athletes and adults using functional training programming. Functional training is a fitness philosophy that centers around movements that mimic real-life activities. The key word here is function. I'm going to quote the legendary Mike Boyle, whose program I learned when I was fresh out of university, and also who many people consider the father of functional training. He says, "Functional training is purposeful training. Function is purpose. In other words, any training with a purpose is functional." So my goal with updating the protocol was to incorporate key principles of functional training. As I mentioned before, I love the 7-day structure of Huberman's fitness protocol, so I stuck with 3 days of resistance training days, 3 days of cardio, and 1 day of recovery. But I've updated the resistance training days to be functional based. So let's break this down. I'm going to walk you through the updated protocol. Each resistance training day is broken down into 2 parts. You have the prep and you have the lift. The prep include your activities like soft tissue work, stretching, muscle activation, mobility, a dynamic warm-up, and plyometrics. The lift is the resistance training portion, and here we're not training muscle groups, we're training functional movement patterns. Functional movement patterns compose all our daily movements. They are the primal foundation for movement in the human body. There are 7 total movement patterns: squat, lunge, hinge, push, pull, carry, and rotation, anti-rotation. So in my updated protocol, these movement patterns are split across exercises performed in 3 supersets. For example, the first superset would be a barbell back squat, chin up, and anti-rotation hold. So why supersets? Well, supersets will actually give you more work completed in a shorter amount of time, and it's also going to increase the intensity of your workout. Depending on what your goals are, you can definitely update the sets and reps or duration of each exercise, and the program is structured for progressive overload, meaning we're gradually increasing the intensity of each workout over time. If you're starting out with 8 reps in week 1, you want to eventually get to 12 reps by week 4. Similar to what Huberman suggests, any exercise in this protocol can be switched out for another exercise, but there's a couple things that I try to maintain when I'm creating a plan like this. Try and stay within that same movement pattern, or at least hit all the movements in one session. Next, I consider feasibility. Is the exercise that I'm doing feasible to do in a superset with the others? Don't be that person at the gym who takes the bench, squat rack, and cables all at the same time. And I also think about purposeful change. Why am I doing this? Is it because I want to progress to something more difficult? Or am I choosing because I need to learn how to do the movement safely before increasing the intensity? The resistance training wraps up with conditioning and breathing. Conditioning is programmed in because it's a means to aid recovery. The updated protocol includes tempo runs as conditioning, which is a sprint but done at 60 to 75% of your effort with walking recovery. As for breathing, breathing is a focus during the stretching portion of our prep. That is a tongue twister, my goodness. Basically what I'm trying to say is that we're focusing on breathing when we stretch. Our number of breaths determine how many times and how long we hold that stretch for, but I've also programmed it in at the end of the lift also. Post-workout, breathing exercises will help you cool down and get your body back into resting state before leaving the gym. So you can find the updated protocol in the description below, and I'm super stoked to share it with you because functional training has been a massive part of my fitness journey, so I hope it brings value to yours as well. I'm also super grateful to have had the experience I've had with Huberman's Fitness Protocol. So if you've done it yourself or if you've changed anything about it, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're interested in hearing more about what I could or couldn't pack into this video, please drop a comment below and I'd love to connect. Thanks to Huberman's Protocol, I was able to achieve my daily exercise habit and get to a feeling where I'm both physically and mentally happy. So much to the point that I'm ready to push myself even further and do something that I've never done before. I'm going to run my first half marathon.